Hey there, welcome back. So I'm super excited about this particular video. For a long time I've been wanting to get the Zimaya Sharaf blend, which is supposed to be the new alternate or clone of the most popular Killian's Angel share. So after a long time I've been able to get a partial of this. So this is here, and also we have Lattafa Khamrah, which we have had for some time, and this is also supposed to be one of the best alls of Killian's Angel share, right? So on this particular video, what we are going to do is basically compare the two and figure out how are the performances of each one of them, how is their scent profile, projection and all of that, and figure out if which one should you actually consider getting if you really are looking for an alternate of or a clone of Killian's Angel share, right? So let's get to it, and you're watching the Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney. Let's get started right after this intro. So first of all, let's quickly look at the presentations that they come in. So Zimaya kind of comes in this kind of a box, like it's a gray colored box that kind of, opens up like this. And this particular fragrance is basically supposed to be tucked in like this. And, the bottle presentation is good. The box is not that great. It's a little flimsy, but, not as good as the Lattafa one, but it's okay. It gets the job done. But the bottle here is like really beautiful. So you kind of get a bottle that looks like literally like a whiskey glass or a cognac glass. The cap is again plastic on this one, but feels slightly heavier, and there's a little bit of nice gold part of it on this particular bottle. There's a branding of Zimaya that's written here and here as well. So you have this aspect as well on the cap, which is really nicely done. Overall, I think on the presentation they have done really good. Okay, so fabulous job on the presentation. And one other thing that you can really observe is look at the sprayer on this one. Let me see if I can get that for you. Okay, it's really a nice sprayer, and it punches a lot of juice into the air, and that part is like really nice. So overall it's a very good bottle and presentation with a good sprayer. Now when it comes to Lattafa as well, it comes in this particular box, which has got a mirror finish kind of thing. It's supposed to snug fit like this, and it looks very classy when it's like this. Even as you want to just keep it in terms of a showcase or something like that, it would really look very appealing. Both of them are really nice that way. So that way these are done really well, right? And when you talk about the box, this is a much better box compared to Zimaya, because this has got a little bit of that wooden type of a texture, but I don't think it's wood. It's basically some kind of plastic, but because of this glaze that they have given at the background, that makes this particular box very appealing and a very well built kind of a box as well. Now when it comes to the bottle, this bottle is really something eye catchy, because I think when this particular bottle came out, I think this was one of the most talked about bottles, because I think from a visual appeal point of view they have nailed it right. So it's a very good bottle. The cap is also very snug fits into this, but the cap is plastic again, just like this, but this is a little lighter compared to that. But otherwise the bottle is done very well. The atomizer is again a light goldish in color. There's a little bit of Khamrah written right in the front, and there's a Lattafa branding at the back, right? And there's a Lattafa on the top. And if you look at the atomizer on this particular one, this was spritz a little lower. Okay, so if you look at that, it's a little lower compared to that. So aside to that, there are no frills, right? So this is about the presentation. So let's keep the boxes aside and let's talk about the fragrances. So let's move this a little here. Okay, so I think that should be okay. Right, now let's talk about the fragrances. The first of all, both are supposed to be clones of Killian's Angel share. So while some people say Khamrah is not exactly a clone and it's an inspiration, but both are fighting for the same, because if you look at the way the presentations are, they are trying to aspire to become or look like what Killian's Angel share is, right? So from that point of view, I would say that it's probably a good extent to which they are trying to become clones, right? So when you look at Killian's Angel share as a fragrance, it's a very talked about fragrance. It's a fragrance that's been on many people's must-have list, and it's a fragrance that really wows people, and there's good reason for that. So when I was in Dubai airport, I was able to sniff this particular fragrance, and I kind of realized why this is such a a talked about fragrance for many, and for a lot of people who are fans of by Killian as a house, they absolutely want to have this particular fragrance, because that house has made some fantastic fragrances, and Angel share is just one of them, which is like really out there, right? Now having said that, this particular fragrance has notes of cognac. That is the most prominent note that you get, because the fragrances can be described as a boozy fragrance. The first thing that you kind of associate with Kilian's Angel Share is booze, and the first note that you kind of get on this particular fragrance is cognac, which is a variety of brandy that's made up of fruits, grapes, and all of those things, right? So that is the first note. The second note that there is on this particular fragrance is cinnamon. You have tonka beans, you have vanilla, so you have a little bit of those sweet notes coming into this picture because of that cinnamon, tonka beans, and vanilla. Then at the base, this particular fragrance has got things like praline, it's got vanilla again. So these elements make this particular fragrance a very beautiful boozy, spicy, sweet spicy, basically vanilla, a little bit of that gourmand because of that praline note, and all of that makes for a very wonderful fragrance. If you can, if I were to describe this particular fragrance, if I were to try and tell you how the scent profile sounds of this particular fragrance, this can be said as you think about taking a little bit of whiskey. Okay, if you smelled whiskey, you know that there's that boozy feeling that you get. Inserts a little bit of cinnamon, okay, like a cinnamon powder, for example, and insert a little bit of chocolate, okay, and then you bring in a little bit of milk, and what you kind of get is a very nice, thick, a creamy chocolate kind of thing with a little bit of a boozy experience. That's the kind of scent profile this particular fragrance is going for. Now, because of the ambery note onto it, this becomes a little, little more sharper and a little more nicer as such. It's not a very sweet fragrance. It has got sweet elements because of cinnamon, because of tonka beans, because of vanilla. All of that bring that cinnamon, bring that sweet element to it. But it's not a very sweet fragrance. Now, after the first few minutes that this particular fragrance opens up, and then as it goes down into the dry down, for me, I felt that this particular fragrance brings up notes such as coffee, okay, because of the tonka beans and cinnamon and vanilla coming into this picture. It kind of brings you or makes you realize that maybe you're sniffing coffee bean kind of a thing, okay, so in the dry down. Then there is also this notion of fruitiness because of that cognac note and because of the other elements that are there. There is a little bit of that fruity note. So this fragrance is more sweeter, ambery, boozy, fruity, powdery, vanilla kind of thing. So that's the scent profile. And so if this is making you interested about this particular fragrance, then absolutely you must definitely try. Now, aside to those elements, which is the booze and all of those, there is one element within this particular fragrance which is really nice, which is because of that sweetness of those boozy element and the praline and all of that, it gives you a feeling at times that you get that bubblegummy effect. Okay, so there's that little bit of that bubblegummy vibe that you get, which makes this particular fragrance even more beautiful, even more loving. And during winters and all of that, or indoors, this is a wow fragrance, right? Now, that's about the scent profile of Kilian's Angel Share and why this particular fragrance is so good. Now, when we talk about our alts and when we talk about our clones, first if we talk about Lattafa Khamrah. Now, for me, this particular fragrance has got a lot of those elements right. Okay. Now, what this particular fragrance, it really takes, more, a positive approach on this particular Angel Share is that this particular fragrance is more sweeter. Okay. So let me kind of, do a couple of sprays on my hand just to get that, sprayer. So just a couple of sprays, and you notice that the sprayer is not very strong, or it doesn't punch a lot. But nonetheless, the fragrance is really nice and you immediately get a very sweet note to it. And I feel this is a lot more sweeter compared to the original. Okay, so that is one element. Second is, in terms of its performance, it projects well for the first 1 to 2 hours. There is definitely projection. It kind of, you will be able to get at least 2.5 feet of projection. Not a beast mode fragrance, I would say, but it's a pretty loud fragrance as such. So that is something that you will get. And then what happens is, after that, it starts to go down into the dry down, and it's still a little sweeter at this point of time, but that coffee note that I was talking to you about does not come into this. It stays more sweeter, more boozy, more apple, more creamy, and vanilla and all of that part stays. That coffee element doesn't come so much. The bubblegummy effect is definitely there on this particular fragrance, and that continues for about 3 to 4 hours time. Okay, maybe about 4 to 5 hours time roughly is what you will get on apparel as well. So this is a beautiful juice. The only drawback of this is, I feel, in terms of its loudness, it's not as loud as the OG. One. Second is, it's more sweeter compared to the OG. And the third is that this kind of lasts about 4 to 5 hours time on apparel as well. So, that's the three things of this particular fragrance that you should know. Now, when we talk about Zimaya, what the Zimaya kind of does fantastically well is, let's go to a couple of sprays on this one. Now notice how powerful that spray is, and it punches a lot, right? Now what you will notice immediately is, in terms of its scent profile, this is more closer to the OG, right? Okay, because it is not as sweet as a Killian's Angel Share is supposed to be. It's not as sweet as that, so it's right on that particular notion of how the original scent profile is, and it's pretty much there to that extent. So you get a very nice vibe, you get that nice boozy effect, you get that nice bubblegummy effect, but it's all balanced very, very well. And this particular fragrance is loud. Now when I say loud, you will easily get about 2.5-3 feet easily, and it projects to at least about the first 1 to 2 hours time. Even it's on your skin for about 6 hours roughly, but I would say that all throughout the time you can kind of sense this particular fragrance is on your hand. Now when I've done this testing a couple of times, at least today and a couple of times yesterday and day, whenever I've worn it before, one thing I've noticed is whenever you wear both of these fragrances left and right, you will always notice that this one takes more center stage, this one is more noticeable, this one will keep hitting you on your nose and telling you that yes, look, I'm here, you can sense me and I'm there, right? So that is the kind of scent profile of this particular fragrance, and the performance is really nice. So overall, if I were to look at and say the few things that Zimaya gets right is, one is of course in terms of the scent profile, more closer to the OG. Second is in terms of the performance, it's a much longer. Okay, you will easily get about 6 hours of performance on skin and apparel. And the third is it's more louder than Khamrah for sure. Okay, so those are 3-4 elements that Zimaya gets right when compared to Lattafa's Khamrah. Now in terms of the differences, or where the con is there, right, is in, I think one is definitely a price point. Okay, because I think this currently you should be able to get it about 1,800 rupees on the Facebook sellers, like exclusive scents. I think you should get it about 1,800 rupees online. I think it's still about 2,000 or so. Whereas Zimaya is about 2,400 rupees with the exclusive scent. So I'm guessing with other sellers, or probably let's say online e-commerce websites, it should be about 2,600, 2,700. So there's a price difference which is quite at least about 700 rupees or so. There's a difference of that particular amount. So that is another element to consider. Now the biggest question that comes is, which one is a clone, or which one is a more closer clone when it comes to Killian's Angel Share? And I would say that Khamrah is trying to become one, but I would say it is still a clone of this particular fragrance, but it becomes more sweeter and more lighter than the OG, and so it's more of a gourmand fragrance. Individually, I would think this is a fragrance that you should absolutely have in your cupboard or in your wardrobe. The real winner that is as close to the OG in my opinion is definitely Sharaf blend. This is really, really good that way. It captures the scent profile really well. I am telling you this because I also have the at least 4 other Killian's Angel Share oils with me. I have Cuban Tobacco, I have Centenelix Hypno Dancer, and then I have Muznas, and I have Yasmin's. Okay, so I have all of these with me, but I'm saying this between the two, I would say this is more closer to the OG, because I will do a full-fledged video of all the 6 oils together, and then when I get the OG sample, which has been a little difficult for me to get my hands on that yet. Okay, having said that, this is definitely a much closer oil of Killian's Angel Share, because one thing this one does which Khamrah is not doing is, in the dry down, this one gives you that feeling of that coffee note that I was talking to you about. Okay, that blend of tonka beans and praline and vanilla cinnamon coming together at the end with that sandalwood note brings that beautiful note of that coffee. Now another element of note which is there on this particular fragrance is oak. Okay, now oak is probably because cognac or wine, liquor or as such is always stored in barrels, oak barrels, for the fermentation to happen, plus mostly the aging to happen, because the oak brings a flavor of the wood into the booze, and that is why the oak feeling is there. So you will have that woody element on this particular fragrance as well, but not the type of woody fragrance that you would consider like Armani Code Absolute or Oud types, not that at all. It's just that in the dry down you have a nice velvety coating of this particular fragrance with a woody touch to it, and that part is coming from the oak note which is there on this particular fragrance, right? So having said that, I think this is a really, really beautiful fragrance to get. So to be very honest, you can get any one of them and you will absolutely enjoy both of them. The reason being is, on an individual level, each of them are fantastic fragrances. I think like Perfume Guru said, if you look at Nickelbai's video or any other video where you've seen Khamrah being spoken about, you can definitely say that this is like a niche quality fragrance that you'll get for a very low price, like superior quality of juice, a fragrance that is so beautiful to keep with you in your collection and can be a very unique masterpiece, especially during winters, right? Now, having said this, Zimaya definitely overtakes this and takes it one or two notches above and makes it for a even wonderful fragrance as such. So definitely between the two, my pick for a much closer alt of Kilian's Angel Share is definitely Zimaya. Right, so I'm so glad I did this because this has been a long pending one and I've been waiting to get my hands on these two fragrances. So finally these are here, and it's really nice to know that Zimaya is all worth the wait that that I was having for this particular fragrance. So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe and share, pass your comments and let me know as to what one or which one is your favorite, and if you like a boozy fragrance like Kilian's Angel Share, right? Or any of the other ones that they have, like Vodka on the Rocks and Straight to Heaven and all of that. So they make a lot of boozy fragrances, but I think Angel Share is definitely one of them that is superb, right? So you're watching the Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney. On that note, we will see you soon in another video, which is almost going to be probably the last video for this particular year. So until then, take care. Bye bye now.